So surrender often looks like getting your balance back in the immediacy of that situation, letting go of, okay, you've ducked and weaved, something, curveball has come from life, or something has surfaced from the depths of your past or your unconscious, and you duck out of the way. You go, whoa, okay, that was close. Now, are you indeed centered after that near miss? Possibly not. And so the meditative aspect of the practice can pull you back into that center. It doesn't tell you whether or not you need to defend another blow or go on to the offensive. It just pulls you back into a little bit more of a position of power. The same message over and over and over again can feel confronting, challenging. It's like, what am I not getting? Recently, Swamiji, our meditation master, released a series of messages that kind of indicated to us that what a particular master of a tradition stands for is that one message, is that core practice, that core essence. And often we return to these things in a manner where we get pulled off of our center and we're seeking something. We often go back to those places to recapture, to get another angle. We never come back at the teacher the same way, because we've invariably experienced a little bit of life since the last thing that was being shared. So, you know, for a very tangible example, someone may come to the soul retreat and we throw this great message of, hey, surrender into the fray of their life. And it can be really, really, really challenging. So that message of surrender flies in the face of pretty much everything else that our culture stands for, which is, you know, fight tooth and nail, absolutely, until the death. And when you begin to adopt that attitude of surrender, not just as a meditative aspect inside of a dhyan practice, a meditation practice, when that surrender begins to take over as a quality that permeates much of your wakeful consciousness, where you're maybe finding yourself in situations that normally would have been triggering or confronting, and that voice of the soul pops in and goes, hey, maybe I need to let go a little bit here. The essence of that message starts to really drive home. And then, so when you come back in and say, you know, say that soul doesn't pipe up and you find yourself encountering situations that are pulling you down, and you don't quite know what to do. You get a little bit lost, a bit disconnected from yourself. The soul might then draw you to those teachers and guides who have that message that you already know, to go and get a reminder. And the reminder is there to point out the thing that you already understood. And in the process of hearing it, you go, yeah, I already knew that. The question you ask yourself, the question I ask myself is, well, if I already knew that, why did I go looking for the message again? And it's difficult to sustain a simple message. It's difficult to sustain a life free from the entrapments of the world. The nature of outward existence is that it will invariably hook us at various energy centers necessarily, so that we go through life learning something. Now, getting hooked or getting pulled into the challenges of both mundane and spiritual existence is not indeed a bad thing outright. In fact, it's a series of karmic and lawful exchanges that are really designed to give you and me and Rajni and everybody the teachings that that we need. So early on in the spiritual kind of journey, people can feel that, great, I can start this meditation, I can surrender, I can let go, and then all of the bad situations are going to start leaving me and I'm going to be just happy and blissful. That's not really what we've experienced. There's been some bliss and happiness, but in the process of learning to let go of the attachment to particular situations, what occurs is an inner centering or stability inside of one's deeper essence, the soul. And from there, you can begin to hear what each situation is calling for. And for me, often the thing that is being called for is to make an uncomfortable gesture, like setting a boundary, or to say something, or to share a difficult truth with somebody, or, rarely and sometimes keeping quiet and introspecting onto an issue. So you can see that the surrender doesn't infer what action needs to be taken. It's a device, it's an inner feeling that gets you back home, and from that place of home, your responsiveness to the requirement of a situation is enhanced. Now, I like the fighting analogy. If someone throws you a big right cross and you duck out of the way to avoid that blow, that's great. You've missed the blow, but you've also put yourself off balance and you're not going to be able to return. You're not even going to be able to continue to sustain and defend yourself. So surrender often looks like getting your balance back in the immediacy of that situation, letting go of, okay, you've ducked and weaved, something, curveball has come from life, or something has surfaced from the depths of your past or your unconscious, and you duck out of the way. You go, whoa, okay, that was close. Now, are you indeed centered after that near miss? Possibly not. And so the meditative aspect of the practice can pull you back into that center. It doesn't tell you whether or not you need to defend another blow or go on to the offensive. It just pulls you back into a little bit more of a position of power where you're balanced and your weight is evenly distributed across your feet, perhaps. So I think that's the limit of the fighting analogy. What I love, we've got a beautiful murti of the Nrtta now. He came back from travels in Bali. And for those that aren't aware, over my right shoulder there, the Nrtta is Lord Shiva depicted as a dancer, the cosmic dancer. And a dance differs from a fight. It's interesting, in the traditional Indian practices, both the dance and martial arts have a common origin. And they have common movement forms as well. So many of the drills that are there to remove obstruction in the hips and the legs and to centralize the energy are common across martial arts, performative dance, inner dance, and these sorts of things. And anyone who's danced knows that there's no winner of a dance. You don't dance to compete against somebody. You're not. You don't put somebody into submission. You don't beat them the way that if a fight infers a competition, or it's there can only be one winner in a fight. But in a dance, there is a sense of lawful expression of change, of movement, of moving off center and coming back into center. And the transition in my journey from being a fighter, which 13 years in the army kind of really ingrained the competitive fighting aspect. It's great. Like a lot of business leaders that have Sun Tzu's Art of War on their desk. For those who don't know, Sun Tzu was I don't know what century Chinese general, and his sort of pithy, punchy military wisdom is often taken by the kind of high-flying corporate executives and used to, be a bit of corporate leadership / also, management styles and this kind of thing. So people have tried to borrow and lean upon that fighting, using fighting as an analogy for one's life. It's good, but it has limitation in that there's a sense of hostility in it. The dance, on the other hand, is an expression for its own sake. And to dance is not to attempt to arrive at any one place on the floor quicker or at a specific time. The floor is there, your body is there, and the expression and unfoldment of the energy gives rise to the experience of the dance. It's for its own sake, much like a flower is beautiful as a part of the expression of the life of a plant. My belief is that dance is an expression of our being, embodied being in life. And in fact, that dance is not just a minute expression, but it's a larger expression of hidden inside the microcosm of the dance is a great deal of wisdom around the larger dance of one's life. So, cultivating the physical dance, like a Nrtta or a pure dance in the Hatha Yoga tradition that we share from the ashram. We share a Nrtta, or eventually we will take students as people reach the level of aptitude required to go into those dance forms. We can share a Nrtta, which is a form of pure dance. Now, it's not for outward expression. It's not for other people to watch. That is a dance that will cultivate your own internal energies and enter you into a trance-like state. Not even a trance-like state, a trance. So to dance, and for that dance then to bring you into a trance, means that there's nothing more required. You're already in the state of meditation from the act of dancing. Okay, so if that's the microcosm of the physical gesture, doing some of this sort of thing, right? These are some of the hasta karanas, or the positionings inside of the Nrtta. Well, what does that teach us about a larger 80, 90, 100, maybe 120-year life? Well, that dance is done as can be done as an expression from the depths of one's being. Okay, well, how do we template or translate that across into the broader life? Well, is your life an emergence from some deeper essence within? Is there some force, some life force that's seeking to flow from inside out, unfurling like a flower? Or is there a series of frenetic graspings at outward trappings that are the predominant forces of one's life? I want this thing, and then I want this thing, and if I assemble all of these different material possessions, well, then that's going to be a life well lived. The proposition would be, from the yogic perspective, that sort of life of grasping for the external trappings of success is a limited way of living. Now, it's not inherently bad or evil. It's just unlikely to yield the same thing as allowing the universal principles to manifest from within. Okay, so what on earth are the universal principles manifesting from within? Well, there's one universal principle, and we call it the soul here. So we take the soul, or the individuated sense of the soul, even as Jivatman, to be synonymous with the Paramatma. And as you allow that Jivatman to merge with the absolute, instead of actually trying to become something, there is a sense of realization of what you are and were all along. Okay, let's get up to the next level of concreteness regarding this stuff. That same life force danced and manipulated and used the elements to combine itself together into the body. Now, whether that's the physical elements or the periodic table of elements, from the yogic perspective, let's look at the experiential elements of nature. Your life force, your soul, made you thirsty when you needed water to nourish the body. It made you hungry when you needed earth, substance, solid, to feed the body. Okay, when the fire was a bit depleted in the belly, that soul called forward those things to fuel it. When you were low on oxygen, that soul calls forward the next breath. Okay, so that soul and the interplay of the elements occurs whether you're conscious of it or not. Okay, so when we're starting to talk about the iconography of the dancer, well, that dance of elements is hidden inside of the body. It's there all the time. And the process of yoga is actually an unveiling of how amazing you had it right from birth. Now, the biggest obstacle to seeing just how beautifully the soul manifests this cosmic dance of body and environment together, the biggest impediment is the mind. But it's also the greatest asset on the journey too. So when we misidentify the true cause of our suffering with or we attempt to rectify that the issue of our experiential suffering by clinging on to impermanent things, the mind takes that false assumption and it spins up this elaborate web of life that is disconnected from the natural process which gave rise to it. So it's kind of like a bit of junk programming that gets brought into our being. And then that, when it spins up into decades of pattern, gives rise to disease in the mind and in the physical being. So health, the cosmic dance, the soul's manifestation is the basis, and yoga is the return to that. But it's a return to that condition without the naivety that we had as a child. Okay, so it's a different thing to come back into that alignment with nature, having seen the damage that the mind can do. So what I'm experiencing now is that the instead of painting the mind as an enemy on this journey, how can that capability be brought into us to enhance, one, to learn and extract true wisdom from life, from our experience, from the body? And how can it be best placated? Or maybe not placated is the right word, but I'm searching for that word. How to best allow that mind to be at ease? Well, my experience has been that the mind loves energy. And dance, physical dance, cultivates energy. It costs you some energy, but it also gives you some. So yoga, same thing. Costs you some energy, but gives you some back. So these practices that bring, the embodied practices that bring alive the life force, that give it an expression in a moment, gives space for your mind to rest with that experience. And then the mind naturally, when it's resting with that energy, now runners may be able to relate to this when they're feeling that flow out running, or if you're a cyclist, when you're really in the rhythm cycling. Swimmers, you would know it with the swimming. You know, bushwalkers, when you're walking, and even just to walk, you feel fully with it. Well, that would be as a consequence of the mind resting with the energy in a very happy state. And so, you know, with the Nrtta, or the pure dance, the mind is not attempted to be pushed away or controlled or fixed or manipulated. Simply, it's allowed to rest with that energy. Now, depending on where you are in your journey of practice, that also may include mantra that is located over the body and used in specific places to help, well, to give the mind more to rest in. But that using mantra through the practice. So I'm not talking about just using mantra to chant outwardly as a mental activity or an audible activity. It's an internal recitation of mantra, but also placement through touch with those sounds onto the body. That's a little bit more of an advanced practice. So if that's where, you know, the desire or the destiny to go down that path is there, and, you know, this is traditional Hatha Yoga, you know, you can't put that mantra into a system where the energy is restricted heavily. So the first stages of the Hatha Yogic journey really have to do with removing some of the larger obstructions and cultivating a sense of refinement to one's energy, to one's life force. And so this initial push for many of us out from, say, maybe forcibly exercising through life and trudging through life, it's like you make this bold gesture to learn how to dance, or to learn how to move, or to, you know, do some very basic movements with yoga. You know, I kind of joke about it when I'm teaching out here on retreats, especially people who are brand new to the practice. It's like, you know, bring the fingers to the eyes and turn at the wrists. And people are like, you know, there's absolutely no grace, because, well, that's been their relationship to their energy. It's been mechanical. And so as you begin to realize that the body is not a mechanism, that it's a manifestation of the universal principle, that the soul gave rise to it, suddenly your movements begin to follow in a more harmonious flow with life, with the energy inside of you. And the accompanying feeling that emerges is good. Typically, it just feels good to be in alignment, the way that, you know, when you're going with the flow, you're quite unaware of everything else. You're just fully with that flow. And so this is how this Nrtta, or the pure dance, begins to enter you into a trance-like state. It's not through extreme physical exertion that you just kind of hyperventilate and then arrive at some dissolved state. It's the bringing together, and the making love is actually the term that comes to mind. It's the making love with that energy. And you know, hopefully we've all experienced some moments of profound union with another being, or with ourselves. And love has a certain speed, it has a certain feel. And so that dance can be a place for you to reflect back onto yourself love. Now, when I was forceful and not really in love with myself, the dance just showed me my self-relationship. I was pushing and pushing, and I really wanted to rip that energy apart. And it's like, you know, I think one of the first mornings I had the grace to study under the supervision of Sundarnath, he just yelled, like, so you go in for a personal practice room, there's a few people practicing against the wall, and the master's sitting in the corner, and you know, you get about 10 minutes of one-on-one time after you've gone through your little sequence. And he just kind of yelled at me from the other side of the room, David, don't attack it. I was like, holy shit, you know, for 15 years, I've been moving like this. I've been attacking the energy instead of learning to relate and to dance and to be with that in a loving way. And so for those that do feel called to cultivate the moving practice, I can't recommend the Nrtta or the pure dance highly enough. It's not an easy path and it's not overnight. From the perspective of the Himalayan meditation, which we're about to jump into, and I must apologize because the laptop is about to die. So I think, and I don't have the charger, so you may have to self-time your way out of this. We'll see how much the, yeah, no, we've got 7%. So I'm glad that the talking got in, but you're going to need to guide yourself. But we're all going to be here still meditating. I can promise you that. So my apologies regarding the laptop situation. Our battery has carked it well and truly now. For the Himalayan meditation, this is the moment at the end of the dance of your day, the dance of your decade, the dance of your life, that you're going to sit and offer all of that dance to the audience of the Supreme. And so each day we rehearse that little routine where we offer ourselves back up to the highest part inside of us. And so it is a part of the dance too. The final soaking in, maybe the crowd is giving you the standing ovation, maybe there's no one there. I don't know what's going to happen at the end of the dance, but the dancer stops and goes, ah. And there's a place that's touched inside. And to continually dance without that moment of surrender is to be absorbed in the state of flux permanently. The balance that I've experienced since both of those practices are in my life, somehow they feed together in this beautiful sense of the peripheral activity of the dance draws things in, and then the surrendered activity of the Himalayan meditation takes the practice beyond. Now that's been world according to David. That wasn't given to me. That's just how things have manifested for me on my path with the yoga. Now other people have got their paths up the mountain. For me, once I learned that Himalayan meditation, I actually began to feel something come alive inside of the dance because I was running around the base of the mountain, sprinting around the base of the mountain. And when I got told that the real way to the top is to let go, it meant the journey around the base of the mountain has kind of been a little bit more interesting and a little bit more peaceful and a little bit less forceful upon myself and my own energy. And the decisions that I make from that place are happier to me. They bring prosperity to me and others. And so I would encourage you that the cultivation of your life as a dance is not just for your benefit, but if you are that happy dancer who sees the engagement with a neighbor as just a little bit of a tango for a moment, or an awkward conversation in the office is just something to spin around with for a little while and then to move off away from, that you're going to be occupying and embodying a much more liberated being that brightens the world around you. And so that balance of masculine and feminine, it comes together inside of that dance. And I pray that your next week is more dance-like, more pure dance, more Nrtta than perhaps it would have otherwise had your awareness not been there. I thank everybody who's jumped in, Slajana as well, and Jen, Sarah too, thanks, Mark, Louise, Jeremy, Kerry, Andy. Awesome to see you in here. And again, I'm so sorry that the laptop is going to die now. So I think as the final thing, we will sit for meditation and have a lovely week, and we'll see you next week.